In this video of Geek Lowdown, we're going to be setting up a VMHost using free software provided by VMware. So grab a cup of coffee, let's go ahead and get started. So in order for us to get started, we're going to need a few things. One of those is obviously going to be a computer to work from. We're also going to need a copy of VMware's vSphere, specifically ESXi 7.0. We're going to need a USB drive. We'll also need to get our hands on a machine that will act as the VM host. Now, this could be a desktop or it could be a server. In this instance, I'm using a Dell Optiplex 990. The other thing we're going to need is some kind of network to be able to plug into, because basically this is useless unless we have some kind of existing network that we're going to utilize this on. So the first thing that we need to do is download the VMware software. So we're going to go to myvmware.com. Once we're there, we're going to go up to the products link up at the top. And then you'll see the free software solutions. Once we're on this page, we're going to scroll down until you see the download free products, and you'll see where it says VMware vSphere. Now at this point, you're going to need to create an account or log in. I have my account, so I'm logging in. And now you're going to see a key that we need to save. So I'm going to take that and copy it into my notes. We're going to hang on to that for later, so that way we can register the product. And then we're going to scroll down some and download the actual package. There we go. So we're going to save that. And then we're going to use this download so we can create a bootable USB, which I'll show you how to do next. Now we're going to go to a browser and we're going to look up Rufus, R-U-F-U-S. This is going to be the software that we use to create the bootable USB. So you're going to scroll down onto their web page, download their latest version, go ahead and save and install that file. Go ahead and run it. And you'll see that our USB is already listed because we already have it plugged in. And you can see that we have our VMware software on the desktop. So now what we're going to do is we're going to point Rufus towards that ISO that is sitting on the desktop and have it set to MBR and FAT32, and go ahead and create the bootable USB. If it asks you to download any kind of menu.32 file or something like that, go ahead. And once that's done, you can go in, check the USB. You see all of the VMware files on the USB. So now we're ready to load up the VMhost. So I've taken the USB that we've just created and put it into the system that we're going to use as the VMhost. First thing I'm going to do is boot into the BIOS. Now, your BIOS might not look like this, but basically what we're looking for is to change the boot sequence or the boot list order. That way we're able to boot from the USB drive. And you'll see that I changed the boot list order here from legacy to UEFI. So that should give us the USB support that we need. And then I'm going to go down and look for virtualization support. And you can see that I have virtualization enabled in the BIOS. So you should be looking for the same thing. And now we're going to boot from the USB. So now we're going to boot from the USB. So what I've done is selected to boot to a boot menu. At this point, if you're still watching the video, please hit the subscribe button so I can keep on making these videos. Now we're going to go down to the UEFI option, and that will boot from the USB. Now we are booting to the ESXi installer. What you're going to see here is the installer loading all of the files that it needs to install the ESXi operating system. I went ahead and cut through most of this because depending on what kind of USB drive you're using or USB port that you're using, it could take anywhere from a couple minutes to 5-10 minutes maybe to run through all of this. Now what you're seeing is the installer initializing. It is welcoming us to the ESXi 7.0 installation, so just hit continue. This is the end user license agreement, so if you can read it if you want, or just hit F11 and accept and continue. It's now scanning for available devices. And now we can select a disk to install on. So if you see there, you can select your hard drive or your USB drive. I would not install it on the USB drive. I would install it on the hard drive. So since I have a previous installation of ESXi on here, I'm going to install a clean copy of ESXi. Keyboard layout for me, US default. Now we get to pick a password for the system. This is very important. Make sure it is long and secure. Lots of stars. It's giving us a warning that in the future releases of ESXi, this CPU may not be supported. That's fine. This is just like a test lab VMhost. This is not anything I would put in a production environment. Production environments, you're going to want something that's, a rack mountable server, redundant power supplies and whatnot. So it says the installation is complete and we can reboot the server. So you'll want to pull out the USB drive that you have plugged into the system and reboot the VMhost. And you can see now that's going through that process. So now that the system is rebooted, it's loading ESXi. As you can see here. And now we get to log into it for the first time. So let's put in the password that we set up in the installation process. And now we get to customize the settings. So the first thing we want to do is configure an IP address for this machine. So this is going to be the IP address that we're going to use to access it from a web browser once we have it on the network. Right now I don't have it plugged into the network, but we're going to give it a static IP address anyway. So you can see that it's set to dynamic. Use your space bar to select to set it to static, and let's give it an IP address of 10.1.10.6. And for this IP address, the subnet's going to be a /24 or 255.255.255.0, and then my gateway for this is 10.1.10.1. Now we also give it we're going to give it DNS information. So the primary DNS on my network currently is 10.1.10.8. so I'm going to put that in. .8. And alternate, I don't have another DNS on this network, so I'm just going to put it in Google. And then I'm going to give it a host name. So I'm going to put GLD VMHost. Why not? And then hit enter to accept. Now, one thing that you want to make sure and do on this is after we put in that information, we're going to want to go in and identify which NIC that we assigned that address to, because this system does have two NICs on it. So you can see here that one says onboard and one says chassis slot. So this is assigned to the NIC that is built onto the motherboard. So that's going to be the NIC that we're going to plug into. That's something that you want to watch out for. So when you do get it on the network, if you're not able to hit it, a lot of times that's why you have it plugged into the wrong NIC. So what we're doing here is now we are shutting down the system so I can get it on the network. And once we have this shut down and on the network, we're going to log into it, and then we're going to license the system. So now we're back at my desktop, and we are going to log into 10.1.10.6. You'll see this where it'll basically give you a security alert. Go ahead and hit advanced and accept. That's just basically because of missing cert. So now we're going to use the same creds that we created during the installation process so we can get into the system. One thing you're going to want to grab is the license key that we saved earlier. So we're going to click on the VMHost, and we can put in that license key that was part of the download. So we're going to highlight that and copy it, and we're going to paste it in there. And then we're going to check the license and then apply the license. And now the system is fully licensed, and this doesn't run out, and we're able to start using it on our test lab. So now we have a VM host that we can use for a lot of different things, and I'm going to be making more videos showing you how to install Linux servers and Windows servers and utilizing Windows server roles. So thank you for watching this video. If you can hit the subscribe button, that would help me out tremendously. Hopefully you get something out of this. Make a test lab. Buy some cheap old computers. There's all kinds of places online where you can buy cheap computers. Anyway, my name is Jason. Thank you for watching the Geek Lowdown. There are more videos to come.